Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, loud and clear.
Yes, success. It's always a 50-50 chance of being able to do this from Mozambique. Um, awesome. How are you?
Good, thank you very, very much. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. For our followers and people tuning in now, do you want to explain who you are and what
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Ollie. I'm a wildlife cinematographer, which is basically a fancy word for wildlife cameraman. Um, I've been doing it seriously for about 4 years now, I'd say. But forever been trying to get into it. But I'd say 4 years full time. Now I'm traveling all over the place. And yeah, I just caught you saying before I managed to join this that yeah, I've worked for like Nat Geo, BBC, a few of the big things that aren't out yet. I have to keep my lips sealed over at the moment.
yeah.
But yeah, basically I travel around and point cameras at wildlife for a living.
And you're in the UK at the moment, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm based in Bristol. It's where I actually grew up half an hour south of Bristol. And I've travelled the grand distance all the way up here. It's not quite moving out to Mozambique, but it's also where all the wildlife film industry sort of is centred in the UK, certainly. So very lucky that I happened to want to get into this, and that Bristol was on my doorstep already.
Yeah, yeah, very convenient. And then for people tuning in that might not follow Love Go know what we do. So I'm the founder of Love Go, we're a marine conservation organisation, and we do loads of different research and community this to establish a marine protection area here. So we do fisheries, whales, coral reef, trash, marine megafauna, and have outreach projects, basic marine resource management, uh, and all of that's kind of come to us because of COVID. So we started this series, inviting guests on, like Olly, every week to talk conservation, talk about their careers and what they do, and get different angles on conservation, basically. So if you're happy, should we just jump straight in?
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so the first question, easy one. How did you get into filming? Where did you self study uni, or how did you go? How did you get into it?
So I get asked this a lot with wildlife because obviously people want to know how do you get lucky enough to work in such a cool job. It's a tricky one. Everyone makes there's no answer in terms of how would someone get into it. Everyone makes their own way into it from such weird backgrounds. Every person, every friend that I talk to does the same thing as I do, just come into a completely different way. I actually, after my GCSEs, went off and studied to become a park ranger, just because I knew I wanted to be outdoors. Picked up a load of outdoor skills, and then realised that I enjoyed playing with cameras a lot, with my friends and out in nature. I was always just nicking my poor dad's camera and going to filming skateboarding and biking and then bits of nature. And I had a mountain bike crash and ended up on my back in hospital for a while and just had a bit of a rethink and was like, maybe I can put both together. Maybe I enjoy cameras enough. And then from there, I studied a BTEC in film, so broadcast media, which covered like radio and TV, which gave me a really good sort of basis of just creating this kind of work, and enabled me to really look at all the different sides of wildlife filmmaking. So the production side, which is the logistics, the organising, the story developing, the coming up with the ideas, to the camera work, to the editing, finding out what I was best at. And I ended up being best doing camera stuff, so I stuck down that route. And then I studied documentary film at university in Newport. It's a degree that sadly closed now, but it was a very specific degree in documentary film. And it was very, very good because it wasn't about the tech and about the cameras, and a lot of people love it and love the really technical side of it. And it's great, and I'm very much one of those people. But it was really good because our lecturer was essentially like, it does not matter what you film on when you're learning. Film it on your phone, but tell me a really good story. And we spent 3 years just filming so much stuff that you have to film, and you have to make a load of terrible stuff that you really hate, and go through the processes loads. And I think that was the biggest thing. And what's given me quite a nice, unique perspective in wildlife is coming from that background of having made just tons of stuff so that I know what I like and what I don't like. So when you're making creative decisions in the field, you're not like, oh, it could be this or this. You're like, I tried that before. It looked horrible. Won't be doing that again.
Yeah. So you studied at university then?
Yeah,
Early.
that was the final stage, and then jumped off into the big wide world of freelancing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. Okay. Cool. Next question. Have you ever been in danger while filming, or I guess photographing?
Um, a bit for sure. Yeah, you end up in these situations occasionally, and it's usually that you're very. It's not a 9 to 5 workday wildlife filmmaking, so you do get tired. You do get too close to things sometimes. You make a mistake, and you're working with seriously wild animals. We're out there trying to film really interesting things. We put all the health and safety in. We don't risk our lives doing it. It's not that silly because we don't want to. And usually, if you're risking your life, you're risking and stressing animals and doing other daft things that affect the environment. So usually take your foot off the pedal a long time before you get into those situations. But there's always stuff. There's always a lot of stuff going on. And it's often not the thing that you're filming, because the thing that you're filming is in front of you. You know that's there. It's the thing that's crept up on you, or it's the snake you're about to step on, or something that's usually the problem.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a couple of interactions with like whales and stuff here where I know that whales are hurt us. We have humpback whales here, and they aren't gonna hurt any humans, but it's still like it's not danger. It's more like adrenaline, maybe like just like pure awe at their side, like
Yeah.
oh, amazing, kind of like not fear. I guess it's like respect for the animal and the fact that they're in there.
I had some friends over for lunch just now, and we were talking about this. They've had a few wildlife encounters, and we were saying it's a very important thing. It's the thing that I wish I could share most that I can't through the filming, is that encounters with big kind of dangerous animals, just to make you feel a bit small. It's an important thing, that adrenaline rush, and that realizing that as a human, like you're just a human. There's some amazing stuff out there, incredible wildlife. It really puts you in your place, gives you a really good sense of perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like so have that where you're like yeah, okay, I'm just tiny you
Just
massive.
like, I'm not really in control here.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're in the ocean, you're completely out of your element. Like,
Yeah, very much so.
yeah. Okay. Who do you look up to most in the world?
There's so many people. I mean, for me, getting into wildlife filmmaking, of course, the idol is David Attenborough. So David, he has done so much through teaching people like an interest and respect in kind of a seemingly nerdy topic, and making it a day-to-day thing. I think that's the most invaluable thing you can really try and do in conservation, is bridge those gaps. There's a lot of people who are really intensely into it from a career point of view and an interest point of view, who go very heavily down the scientific side of things. But the reason that I enjoy filmmaking, the reason I got into wildlife filmmaking, rather than being a park ranger, was because I felt that if you make a really good film and you really affect people's feelings about something, you can teach people, not like manipulating and being like, you should feel this way, but you can present something in a lovely way and be like, here's what this really is. And you can make people fall in love with it. You can make people want to learn more about it off their own backs. And so I think from that point of view, not just because he's David Attenborough, but like because of where he sits and what he does is so important in that bridging that gap between people who wouldn't normally be interested in wildlife and conservation topics and being like, but have you heard about this? And then suddenly you have millions of people sat on their sofas being like, what? Who are then Googling away about it, finding stuff out, and bridging that gap and getting people further into it is so invaluable.
Yeah, when Blue Planet, well, either Blue Planets came out, but doing the so when I'm here, I do like a lot of talks at universities, and everywhere, everywhere, and it was great. Like it was so cool. People wanted to have conversations around conservation issues, like obviously plastics is big, but that opens about all sorts of different stuff. So it yeah, I guess like David, he's such a great science communicator, and scientists often communicating what's going on. So have tell a story really well, informative way that, yeah, as you said, that may not necessarily be like super interested in that specific subject, but get them still involved. Is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I can
definitely.
see Matt's question. I'm going out on a bike ride in a bit, Matt. I'm trying to get as much water in me as possible. It's suddenly gone from grey to boiling hot here, so I'm worried. Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, the communication side of things is it's a missed quite a lot, and I see a lot of conservation films as well that are wonderful, and I really love them, and I love watching them. But I understand the issues, and I'm doing stuff actively to deal with these issues, and that's not the person that needs to be learning about this stuff necessarily. So yeah, it's trying to get that communication across really well, not just outlining all the details and all the like bad side of things, and making a really focused film that only people who are already interested in conservation are going to make, but making something that really gets people into it, gets people past that gap. Yeah, it's
yeah,
fantastic.
definitely. I'm just gonna plug you in. Hopefully that will help. Um, okay. Right.
All good.
Yeah, that's much better. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, loud and clear. All good.
Perfect. Technology is working today. Yay.
Don't say
So, okay. Do you have a favorite or special picture that you've taken?
Not that I can show anyone yet properly. My favorite one. I took it whilst filming for Frozen Planet 2 a little while ago. But I've got one from Seven Worlds actually. Here, that's my current desktop background. Ooh, I can see.
Oh, beautiful.
There's
Yeah.
a couple of albatross, grey-headed albatross, sat on on their nest. They're sort of practicing being a couple, going through rituals, and just really lovely. They're such incredible birds, and I didn't really think I was much of a bird person. I've never been like a bird watcher or interested in wildlife in that kind of a way. And then spending time with these was just absolutely magical. So yeah, I think it's as much as the sort of emotion of remembering it. It's looking at the photo and remembering being there. I think as much as the photo. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like I've again I would not say that I'm a birder or I have ever been particularly into birds, but I remember having we had a ocean birds like seabirds module at university, and albatross were in it, and I remember albatross being like the one of the few birds where I was like, that is an extremely cool animal.
And they're for their size, they are so emotive. And I think this is the thing that people don't get with birds. It's not like they're a cute, fluffy mammal where they're suddenly like big eyes and I was a cute baby. They're not that emotive looking, but like when you spend time with them, they're so huge. So these aren't massive. The grey heads, they're pretty big, but like a large sort of size still. They're not the wanderers. But they have these razor sharp bills, really, really pointy ends for catching squid. And they preen around each other's eyes. And because they're not bothered by people, because there's never been people on the island, they've never been hunted by people, they'll come up to you and they'll sit like a meter away from you. Um, and they just preen each other around the eye with this razor sharp thing, and the control and the precision, and just the two of them sat there is just absolutely incredible to watch. And it's really cool being in that situation with a wild animal where it just completely trusts you and it's completely oblivious to you, and it's just like doing its thing, just like, what's that? And it looks at you for a minute and goes, that's not doing anything scary.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so cool. I've never seen them in real life, but it's definitely on my bucket list of animals to see in the wild.
There's one, a mollymawk, which is a black-browed albatross that you also get down there, that's lost in the northern hemisphere at the moment. I think it's been around for a few years, and I can't remember which colony it's with, but it's up with one of the gannet colonies up in Scotland somewhere at the moment. So yeah, if you're in the UK and you fancy seeing an albatross, your chance.
That's very cool.
Annoying all the gannets, and they all peck at it all the time.
That's very cool. Okay, we've got a lot of favorite questions. What's your favorite outdoor or nature activity to do when you're not filming?
Always been a big mountain biker, so probably mountain biking. But I've done a few big hikes as well. I love long, detached hikes. I did a trail in Sweden called the Kungsleden a while ago. Actually, a mutual friend of ours did first. Is how I found out about it. Um, and yeah, between big long distance hikes, are going away for a month, and mountain biking here in Bristol is good for mountain biking as well. So good fun.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I've seen a few photos of that on your Instagram as well, I think, of your mountain biking.
Yeah, like I said, it was one of the things that got me into pointing cameras at things anyway. So between life jobs and sort of making money when you come out of uni, I did a few sort of mountain biking gigs and filming and photography. So always stuck with it, and I usually have a camera with me when we go out for a ride. So if the light's good, I'm going to end up taking photos.
Yeah. Okay, and what's your favorite hide snack? And for people that don't know what a hide is, do you want to explain what that is as well?
So hide is, well, it can be a variety of things. It can be like a pop-up tent. It can be a building, mostly enclosed with a small gap in the front of it, enough to poke a pair of binoculars or a camera through, so that you're kind of hidden away from your wildlife. And we spend a lot of time in them on a lot of shoots, waiting for things to show up. I did a shoot recently where we spent 6 weeks sitting in hides for about 2 weeks at a time with a day off to go and have a shower every 2 weeks. And that's quite a normal thing. And so, yeah, snacks are important for morale. It ends up being whatever is the snack of choice in the country that you're in, because flight and excess baggage costs so much. You don't want to fill up suitcases for like 6 weeks of shooting and then take them out there. So it's a nice surprise, snacks, when you get out of the country and you really hope you like what they make.
Have you had any
butter or some Marmite in my suitcase as like a backup, because worst case you can get some like dry crackers or something in most countries, and then you have a little bit of sanity every now and then.
Have you had any in any countries where you've been like, that's amazing, I wish I could bring that back to the UK? Or are UK snacks better?
UK snacks are pretty sweet compared to a lot of other countries, I've got to say that.
Okay.
A lot of other countries are pretty healthy and dry, much like sugar and stuff, and you kind of miss that a little bit for sure. I had some amazing dried mango in Norway, and it's just dried mango, but whatever they did to it in Norway was a whole packet of that in like 10 minutes, and then realised that was it for the next week.
Oh no. Yeah, so we get a lot of dried mango here. Well, we get a lot of mango here that you can turn into dried mango. One of my friends has like a massive sack of just dried mango, and got given it as a present, and has been making its way through it ever since. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, what is your favourite sequence of any Blue Chip wildlife series ever?
So again, for people who don't know, Blue Chip is what we call the really high-end wildlife stuff. So if you can hear in your head David Attenborough talking over it, it's generally a Blue Chip wildlife thing. It means it's that style. It's really tricky to pick up my favourite one, because I love things so much for the different like feelings and emotions they bring forward. So there'll be great conservation ones, there'll be great funny ones, there'll be great action sequences and hunting sequences, and there's bits out of them all that I really love. There was a film made by Disney Nature. It was their very first sort of big wildlife film called The Crimson Wing, though, and the sequence was like one of the stories out of it. The whole film is based around flamingos in Lake Natron, but one of the opening sequences, they've shot some of the most beautiful, they're kind of scenics and introducing the flamingos, and it's to do with the way that the music worked with it, and the images are just incredible. Lake Natron is this caustic red lake, so it's got all this algae that grows in it. It's what gives the flamingo the colour, the tint in their feathers when they feed there. And so it's just this incredible place. And just the way that they shot it and the way that they worked the music with it was done by the Cinematic Orchestra. And I don't know why we don't BBC things and stuff, because my God, the music they come up with is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like top end wildlife filming, and they shot it on proper film as well. Even in the digital age, they were like, we're going to shoot this on film, and it looks incredible.
What was the name of that again, for people that might have missed it?
The Crimson Wing.
Okay, cool.
I think you can get it on iTunes, and it might even, I think it's definitely on the Disney Plus, whatever streaming service they've got going now. Nice. Yeah, and the other Disney Nature stuff is pretty good. It's nice. It's really good. It's definitely more for families and kids, though.
Yeah.
And then the Crimson Wing is this one standalone film they made at the beginning that's like a full art house cinema wildlife documentary that's just on another planet. It's incredible.
That's awesome. I'll definitely check that out. I haven't heard of it before. Okay, next question. What is your favourite part of your job?
My favourite part is the travelling, not only in that you get to travel to amazing places in the world, you get to travel to places where you couldn't even go if you're the world's richest tourist, places you're allowed access to because you are working on a filming permit. You can go to some incredible places that just you have to apply to the national parks and the government things and the science, and our production teams do the most amazing job at getting us to these ridiculous places that you're like, there's no way they'll ever let us there. And then suddenly you're in, there's a whole film crew. And they're just, inaccessible, amazing corners of the world that there's just no one around. I think that's the best bit.
Yeah, definitely. And then just so that it's fair, if people are watching this and wanting to go into or thinking about going into wildlife cinematography, what's your least favorite or like most difficult part of your job?
There's a lot of difficult aspects, and I think it varies from person to person. And I think that probably reflects the difficult part, which is like the kind of the emotional balance of it. It's like which bits stress you out. It's very long term. It's very intense. The teams that you work with, you go away with 2 or 3 people. You have to get on with them. You're living in each other's back pockets for 6 weeks. You have a budget hanging over your head of being like, right, this cost an enormous amount of money to send you out to this ridiculous place. Here's all the kit. You better come back with that story. You better come back with having filmed it. There's a huge amount of pressure, so everyone's working in these high pressure situations, and it's wearing, especially if you do shoot after shoot after shoot. I worked from August last year through until we were closed down this quarantine, and I had about, I think, just under 2 weeks off in total. Wow. In fragment bits coming backwards and forwards. And so I think that's the hardest bit, and you don't realise how much it tires you out and wears you down, and so you're trying to keep creatively fresh and good. But beyond that long emotional answer, airports, God alive, airports are horrendous. When you've got 40 cases of equipment.
Yeah.
And the airline has different rules for it on the spot when you arrive, and you're like, we spoke to someone about this. You knew we were coming with 40 cases, and they're like, I've never heard of it before. You're not getting on the plane.
What? Yeah, we had to bring out kit to Moz, and it's an absolute nightmare trying to. We've been lucky. We've got BA sponsors us free luggage, obviously because charity, so one-way free luggage. But getting it from, so you can't fly direct here, so you have to fly to South Africa or through Europe or somewhere else first. And usually the easiest / quickest way is to go to South Africa first. So getting that amount of luggage up to our base from South Africa, that's the difficult bit, because sometimes I'm driving and then you're going through border posts and you've got customs and all the rest of it, and trying to explain charity and all the rest of it. It gets quite difficult.
And they always ask to see on carnets, which is like your passport for your equipment. When you have a carnet, they always ask to see the item on the list that you know is packed at the very bottom of the pile. They ask for a few sample things for evidence when you're doing border crossings, and they're like, "Can we see that you have this item on you and this item on you?" And you're like, "Please, anything but those." I know where they are. They're at the bottom.
Yeah, repacking. Someone's just asked, which camera and lens does someone use on the field? Does one use on the field?
Well, different companies have different standards, basically. People ask if you need loads of cinema experience with cinema cameras. It helps, but it's more in the other equipment you put the cameras on. If you can expose a DSLR manually, you can generally expose a cinema camera manually. And then you usually in wildlife are at the whim of the specification that the production's asked for. So they'll have to deliver a certain thing. So at the BBC, we shoot predominantly on red cinema cameras. And other companies, they shoot on Sony cameras. Personal preference, I'd shoot everything on Sony if I could. It's just a creative, artistic-y kind of thing of how the image looks, and the boring logistics of like, can you put it on a long lens, a big zoom lens? Then can you put it on a gimbal for your handheld shots? Could you put it on a drone if you needed to? There's lots of that. So it's with wildlife, it's certainly a lot more about logistical choice than it is about creatively. I want it to have Arri colors or Sony colors or Canon colors, or like it's more just like what works for all the things we need for this.
Yeah.
And we shoot like our long lens stuff, which is the thing that people are most interested in, which is like a big zoom lens when things are really far away. We shoot a Canon CN20, which is it's standard across all wildlife productions. Everybody's got them. And that's a 50 to 1,000 millimeter lens. It can go up to 1,500 millimeters. Yeah, it's good. But trying not to shake when you're right in at the long end of it. When you're at 1,000, you're following something, trying not to let it shake and trying to get that shot steady. Is
how heavy is that as well?
It's about 12 kilos.
Ooh.
Yeah. You'll have that, and then you'll have the camera body, which isn't massive. They're like carbon fiber little things compared to the lens. A couple of big heavy lead batteries, and then your tripod head's usually about 12 to 15 kilos as well, and then the legs are maybe sort of 7 or 8 kilos. And so if something happens 100 foot away, you have to hold a lot on your shoulder and leg it.
Wow. Got to keep physically fit for that job as well.
It's an interesting one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And least favorite part, do you ever feel critical of photos or videos that you create, or are you generally happy with what you do?
I have a few that I'm happy with now and then, but generally critical. And I think in any sort of creative stuff, if you get too happy, you aren't really improving. I think it's a really good thing to try and learn to be the student all the time. And you can be happy with something and learn from it at the same time. You can be like, oh, in a difficult situation, I managed that pretty well considering what I know, but would have done this next time, but now I know for next time. But there's always that improvement, and you're always looking at that. And there's so many things to juggle when you're filming versus photography, that's the worst one. Photography, quite regularly, you can look at it and be like, yeah, I'm quite happy with that photo. With filming, you can be really happy with a shot, but maybe it doesn't work to edit in with the other shots. So it can be a magnificent shot on its own, but maybe it's not great in the context of things. Or maybe it's a really ugly shot on its own, and you're like, oh, I'd never have used that. And then they do the edit, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, oh, that works really well. So it's really nice to always be learning with that sort of thing. And yeah, always be a bit uncomfortable, always be a bit unhappy. It's a good motivator. Yeah,
learning, important part of the job. Okay, what is a conservation issue that you think a lot of people aren't aware of?
I think keeping it vaguely on ocean themed stuff here. There's a lot of stuff with farmed salmon, certainly in Scotland and in Norway. Norway's really bad for it. People think that like organic salmon and all this kind of stuff is a good thing. I was chatting to an amazing cameraman called John Aitchison. I've been on a couple of shoots with my friend Erin, who I think I saw checking on the comments earlier. And he's talked quite a lot about that. And it's a very complicated one to get into, but it's not as healthy an industry as it's made out to be by a long way. And it's quite decimating to the wild areas that it's done in. And it's not managed very whatsoever. And then also wild salmon. Erin, my friend, is taught me a lot about, as you said, shared lots of content about this. There's a big mine called Pebble Mine in Alaska at the moment, which they're trying to go ahead with. It's going to wipe out a huge area. It's going to be really bad for sockeye salmon and for bears passing through the area. And I'm mid-reading up about it all at the moment, but essentially the whole American government at the moment, the way that Trump's sort of knocked out I think it's the Environmental Protection Agency, has not been fantastic in terms of just driving big projects like that forward, where there is a huge, wonderful wild area. Loads of jobs rely on the salmon fishing industry up there, which I know is a bit of a love-hate thing, but they're pretty good, I think, up there. It's quite a natural thing. It doesn't decimate or hurt the population. But they're basically going to have all of that and just put in a mine where they're going to employ very few people, stop passage of bears, block off loads of rivers for salmon, and just, yeah. It's a prime example of small, out-the-way town that the government doesn't think anyone's looking at. Maximum profit for the fewest people possible. That's sort of capitalism over environment. It's not very nice.
No, definitely not. Have you got any advice for anyone around that, like to read up more? Or
Pebble Mine, there is a great couple of websites on There's one that's called savebristolbay.org, so from one Bristol Bay in the UK to Bristol in Alaska. So savebristolbay.org. And then for the farm salmon, I was trying to find it earlier. Patagonia made a wonderful film called Artificial, spelt with fish in it, like that. You can see that.
Yeah.
So they made that, and that's a great watch about the farm salmon industry as well. So I think those are really interesting ones, ocean-based ones that you should go and enjoy and learn something.
Definitely. Awesome. Okay. Have you got any tips? So now we're going into the people who've submitted questions around like careers and things like that. Have you got any tips on landing your first major natural history camera job?
Yeah, it's networking, as in you network to get into any sort of media things, especially when you're freelance. You need to know people for them to think about you when it's up. But it's networking on a more intense process that at the end of the job, if you get given it, then you're going to go and spend 6 weeks in a tent or in a small cabin hauling kit through a swamp with someone. So they have to know that you've got their back as much as they've got yours. So really the best thing you can do is network really heavily, meet people, meet your heroes, look up the sequences and the programs that you love, and make genuine connections with producers, rather than just being like, oh, that person looks important, I'll go and meet them. You might not have anything in common with them, and then you won't click, and they won't necessarily have any work for you. But maybe you find someone more particular who is worked on that one amazing sequence that you saw about brown bears, and you were like, that was the coolest thing ever. You chat to them, and your genuine enthusiasm for it will come through. You'll click because they've made it creatively in a way that you understand, that you like. And I think those connections are really important. And in wildlife, you make those connections for life. Those are the people that are going to keep on employing you for years and years, because you get what they're about, they get what you're about. And that translates well when you're in the field, when you are having to trust each other with this big project with like split second decisions and that sort of a thing. If you're on the same wavelength, I think that's very important, is forge those natural connections, those natural friendships. Is something that I think was never taught to me, and is one of the most important things in wildlife network.
And with networking, do you have any advice on like where to do that? Like what kind of things to go to do that?
Bristol's amazing for it because all the production companies are here, so everyone's obviously physically based here. There's a thing called Natural History Network that you can sign up for, and you can build a little profile. It's a bit of money every year. It's like £50 or £60, I think, maybe, off the top of my head. And you get a profile, but they have networking mornings. COVID aside, I don't know what they're doing. They've done a lot of streamed things, I think, as everybody switched. But they do networking mornings, which are absolutely fantastic. And then really, like I say, it's emailing the company you like. For example, BBC. Generally, first name dot last name at bbc.co.uk. It's probably the person you want to speak to. If that person doesn't get back to you, first name dot last name 01.
Very good tip.
That's the same with most production companies. Look at their website, if they're .com or .co.uk, and then just try their last name at.
Yeah, definitely. And then what can someone do who's just come out of university to break into that world, the natural history film world?
It's that networking, and then it's making a really lovely show reel that's not just photographs. I think I've seen a lot of show reels. I saw a couple more today that came out as well from friends, and lots of really lovely stuff, but a lot of it's very photographic, and it's very like, here's a nice image, here's a nice wide, here's a nice close-up. You want to demonstrate your ability with your camera work, for example, if you're doing it from a camera side of things, to be able to tell a story, to really, show how you would like convey the emotion of what you're trying to say, or how you would enhance the behavior, or like really sort of tell behavior properly with your camera work. And I think looking for that really great storytelling always comes through, even if it's like 3 shots per thing in a show reel. If you can do 3 really great shots and show that you can like build that sequence, you can introduce it, you can show behavior in a fantastic way, you get good exit shots, something like that is a really good way to show people your competence.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, cool. That's all of the questions that were submitted beforehand. So anyone tuning in now, if you want to submit questions in the comments now, we can try and get through them as well. And just quickly, I saw a couple of people had asked questions that we've already answered. So if you missed the beginning of this and you want to watch the whole thing, that's cool. We're going to put this on our YouTube afterwards. So you can check on our YouTube and rewatch like how Ollie got into what he does now and things like that.
Sorry, I'm leaning into the camera. I'm just flicking through and reading the comments.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Olly Shep 11 says, "My name is Ollie and I love nature photography and you went to my school." Hello, Ollie. Was that Wells or Strode? See if you're still here.
And someone's asked, how can you invest in at an early stage in buying gear?
Well, so for the main stuff, I don't shoot on my own gear. It's very, very expensive wildlife filming kit. I found that it's more useful to invest in kit that makes your shoot life more comfortable rather than camera kit. Good outdoors equipment. You end up finding all the things that you love and that work well with you. Like I swear by the Swedish company called Fjällräven. I swear by their trousers. Swear by their trousers. I really love them, and then I really love like rab jackets and all those kinds of things that like are kind of super comfortable. When you know you can rely on that kit, makes doing your job much easier. Whether it's cold or whatever, you find the stuff that you're just totally comfortable in. And a good set of hiking boots and all those daft little things that you might be like, oh, I want to buy new camera lenses. Like, I really value having kit that I know I can go out on any shoot and just know that that's not going to fail me. That even when the camera's going, when it's pouring down with rain, when everything's soaking wet, I'm good to go. Like, I can work well. And I bought like a really nice camera rucksack here. It's just here. Find it quickly. Which is this huge, huge camera rucksack here. It's like an 80-litre thing. But that is one of the best bits of kit I've ever bought because it saves my back when you're hauling like 40 kilos of stuff somewhere. I can hike all day with it and have all the stuff that I need with that big long lens setup. I can haul it up a mountain if I need to, albeit slowly. But like that's the kind of thing that I say investing wise, like I value the most. And then I've got a really good toolkit because with a lot of camera work, you're just doing the camera side of things, and with wildlife, you're kind of, if you're talking about it from a traditional filmmaking point of view, you're the grip as well, which is building all the mounts and stuff for the cameras to go on. You just have to make stuff work. You're like often resoldering little bits of like cables that have snapped. You're having to find a way of building a hide out of nothing. You're having to, just do all sorts of stuff. Like I bought a really good drill the other day just because I need it for work. It was a good excuse to be like, I need a fancy drill. Like it's really annoyed me. So many shoots now have been like, I'd be able to build this in a few seconds. So it's not what you expect.
Okay, we've got a few questions that have submitted. I didn't actually know Instagram did this, but okay, someone said favorite track for epic wildlife action shots.
As in music.
Yeah.
Ooh. I listen to a lot of music. I'm a very, very music person. It's one of my things, and I'm in a hide. Always have audio in. At the moment, I've been listening to a ton of Leanne Lahavas, and it's really chilled. It's not epic as such. It's not like big epic stuff. I think Cinematic Orchestra though. There's a track called "Arrival of the Birds" that they did, which is actually for that Crimson Wing film. That's like for a kind of classical track. It's absolutely outstanding. Nice. So that's a very cool one for big epic stuff. Yeah.
Okay. We've got time for a couple more before we move on to our quick fire. Okay. Advice. We've gone through a little bit already. I can't actually see the full one of this question, so we'll have a look. Ever spent a long time trying to capture an insect in the grass? I was engrossed with something trying to climb a blade recently. I can't see the end of that question.
Guys, how would you capturing this iPhone to hand only? Set up the scene, have some nice shots of the scene going on. It's usually quite good to have something entering frame. So if this is your frame, a good way to reveal it would be to like show some of the grass and then have it enter frame to try and predict where it's going to climb, or like the birds, for example, they often come back to the same perch, so you end up finding that they're going to land on that branch. You can wait for them to fly away for a bit and come back. Insects a bit harder, but they might return if they have a good little bit of shelter. They often wander backwards and forwards along leaves, and so try and predict where it's going to go, and you can get like a nice organic entry to it coming in. with your iPhone. And then
Yeah.
different shot sizes and angles that are gonna go together well. Was the one. I actually have spent a long time. I filmed fireflies for Seven Worlds, so I spent a long time chasing them around in. That was in Ohio in the United States.
Nice.
That was one of the ones we were talking about dangerous things earlier. Filming fireflies, fine. The copperhead snakes that were also in the same meadow. As one of the guides said, we were like, "Would you die?" And he's like, "You won't die, but you will have the worst summer of your life."
That's reassuring. Okay. So if people still have questions, you can continue submitting them. We're going to flip to our quickfire questions now. So
send me messages or send them via the Love the Oceans guys. I'm always happy to chat as well. I'm sure I can give them my contact details, or go to my website, Google me, and get in touch. I'm always happy to chat about this stuff as well.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so for those of you that have seen our Q&As before, you'll know that we do some fun quickfire questions with each of our guests, and they're not necessarily related to conservation. They're all really random questions, but the idea is to get to know you a little bit better. So if you're ready, shall we go through them?
Let's give it a crack.
They don't have to be one word answers, so don't worry too much, but
I'm sure I can handle it. It's all good.
Yeah.
You sent me these, but I've not read them, so I'm going to be as reactive as I can.
Okay, cool. Okay, so favorite ocean creature?
Can I say marine mammal and go for a polar bear?
Yeah, that counts. Favorite day of the week?
Friday.
Okay. Plastic-free or eco-free product that plastic-free or eco product that you can't live without?
There's a really good zero waste shop down the road from us here, and so you have to go and top up from all the base things, just like flour and pasta and oats and stuff like that we go through tons of, and just take a few jars down there is invaluable to me. I really love that, and it's a bit more time. It's actually cheaper than going to the supermarket most of the time, which is wonderful. I think it's seen as this very middle class posh thing, and it's like, if you can put the effort into it, it's a money saver and a plastic saver. Yeah,
awesome. So glass jars are definitely your favorite eco product, because then you can refill. Okay, favorite beach in the world?
Kvalvika in Norway. It's in the Lofoten Islands. I actually have a big tattoo from a hut that's up on there. There's a fantastic called North of the Sun, made by some Norwegian brothers, about collecting plastic from the beaches on the Lofoten Islands, and they stayed on Kvalvika over the winter for 9 months. And built this cabin out of the waste that washed up on the beach and collected it all and got it out of it. And I got to visit it a couple of years ago. So that's my favourite beach in the world.
That's very cool. Okay, last song you listened to?
A song called Bloom by Donna Missal, which is Missal. Her latest album is outstanding. Nuts voice. Go watch some of her live videos.
Nice. Dolphins or sharks?
Sharks. They're misunderstood. Love sharks. Yeah.
Favorite holiday?
As in like national holiday?
Well, it can be national holiday, it can be destination. Depending on what country our guests are from, they answer different every week.
Anything mountainous. I'd love to holiday, I guess, because I'm spoiled and I travel and do this anyway. I would probably be going mountain biking in Canada or in the Alps in France. Yeah,
definitely beautiful mountains. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
I go with every language in the world. I think being able to, my job's communicating with people, so being able to communicate with people would mean I can do my job more effectively.
Yeah, that's true.
The animals are normally so far away that I'd be in the woodland, like screaming at them, being like, "Come back! Walk across again!" And it would be like the wind over there shouting out as I'm leaving.
Yeah. I asked someone that, one of our guests a couple of weeks ago, and they said, like, doesn't necessarily mean that the animal might say yes to being in the photo either. You could be like, "Can you just go here and do this?" And the animal could be like, "No, I'm gonna go." So, as a superpower, teleportation or breathing underwater?
Breathing underwater. I can't dive very well because I have really bad sinuses, so like equalizing is really hard for me. But I can free dive. I can weirdly equalize free diving better, and I flipping love it. I don't do it nearly enough. Breathing underwater would be the one.
Yeah, I think most marine people would say breathing underwater.
But then teleporting, if we could all do it, would be nice on not having air travel. So
Yeah, and also there's an argument to be had that like if you teleported and you couldn't breathe underwater, you could like teleport back up to the surface to refill your scuba tank and then go back down, or refill your lungs for free diving and teleport back down to the same spot. So argues for both. What book would you take with you onto a desert island?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Oh, I've got some good books here. This would be useful. There's a guy called Nick Offerman who's he's in a show called Parks and Recreation. He's a good actor. He's also a really fantastic woodworker. I'm presuming that there's going to be a coconut tree or something, so I think with this I could probably make some fun furniture.
Can you read the name of that out? Because the Instagram is like flipping the words the other way around.
Good, clean fun.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's a book about making furniture and everything fun.
Very useful.
Some coconut tree.
Oh yeah. First thing you're going to do when things get back to normal. I say normal with a...
Go back to work because I can't go because we can't fly anywhere.
So that would be traveling and going abroad.
Yeah.
Nice. And last question: why do you love the oceans?
I find an enormous sense of peace when I'm stood near the ocean, and I think it connects to feeling small. And what we were talking about earlier with the wild animal, I think an ocean's the one environment that you can really feel properly out of. Well, don't mean it as a joke, but out of your depth, and you feel small. I did a crossing from the Falkland Islands across to South Georgia for 7 Worlds a year and a half ago now, and you're in the middle of it's one of the roughest crossings in the world. I think the roughest one's next to it, going down to Antarctica, but in a tiny, and there's just nothing from horizon to horizon, and it's the only place that I've really felt very, very small from an environment rather than like an animal. And there's something just so wild and unexplored and wonderful about that. And the fact that people populated and discovered most corners of the earth, and yet we know so little about the oceans, is so exciting and just so mind-blowing. It's like looking at the stars on a dark night and just realizing you have no idea how far that goes on, what's out there, and it's just the unknown and the wildness. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I love going surfing in stormy weather in October and stuff. I don't really surf over the summer, but give me a really good stormy swell in October and I'll be in the water. It'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that was the end of the questions. We haven't really had any more submitted. Someone's asked about carbon emissions.
Oh yeah.
Want to answer that one?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And we offset with the big productions. I say I work freelance for all these companies, but as an industry, all the big productions do carbon offsetting. So we very much write down the flights that we took, how many people took those flights, the taxis that we took, the cars that we hired, and we track everything and make sure that we're on as top of it as possible. And I think most companies even round it up just to make sure that the stuff we've missed is covered. But that's obviously not as good as not doing it in the first place. So when we go out on location, we go to these places, we try and do it in one time. So say we're out there for 6 weeks. It's because we try and fly out there once, film it, get it absolutely perfect, fly back. There's no backwards and forwards or should we go back next year or should we go out for a bit, see how it goes, come back, have a look, go back out again. There's years of research that go into these big programs. They take 4 or 5 years to make, of which 1 or 2 years at the beginning is just research, deciding the perfect stories, which bits we need to do the most. So I feel bad and it feels horrible, but with what we're doing, I hope that we do more good by teaching people about these things through our flights than we do through not doing them and not teaching people about these incredible corners of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
The tricky one is biggest things in wildlife filming I think that's thrown around. It's very hard to give give
In
an answer.
conservation as well, it's really difficult. Like I have to fly once a year for Love the Oceans to get down here, and I mean, like, we do conservation work and conserve whales and things like that, and whales are really big carbon offsetting animals, but it's still like if there was an option to get a carbon neutral flight, or a flight that just didn't damage the environment, then obviously I think most people would take it. So until that is created, hopefully it will be created sometime soon, who knows. Okay, cool, great. So that's all the questions. Before we wrap up, do you have anything that you want to tell the audience about, or talk about any upcoming projects for them to watch out for, anything like that?
I'm currently been working a lot on Frozen Planet 2. That has now just been pushed. It's going to be out in 2022 is how long these take to make. So yeah, set a note in your diary and you'll be nicely surprised in like 2 years time. If you've not seen it already, go and watch Seven Worlds, One Planet. That's the last thing I worked on. And yeah, that's sort of what I'm doing at the moment. If you follow me here on Instagram, that's the best place for seeing all my little journeys. I'll let go snippets of what I'm allowed to as I'm traveling around. Yeah,
perfect. Okay, so everyone watching, you can click on the top left-hand corner and that will take you to Olly's profile and Love the Ocean's profile. Make sure you follow both. And as Olly said, you can keep up with what's going on there as well. And if you've got any questions that you couldn't submit during this live, then you can send them either to Olly directly on Instagram or to Love the Ocean's account, and we'll forward them on. Also, if you've missed any of the questions that have happened throughout this, or want to rewatch this live Q&A, because there were some great nuggets of information in here, then you can check it out on our YouTube afterwards as well, and this will probably also be on our IGTV, so you can check that out there too. Thanks so much, Olly. Really appreciate you sparing the time to come on.
Having me rambling away.
It was lovely to chat to you.
And thanks everyone for tuning in, I guess, as well.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for the good questions.
Yeah, and thanks for the internet.
Awesome. Okay, great. Have a great evening, and I'll chat to you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.